Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Before we dive into the world of ancient Egypt, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even hit that little bell so you don't miss the next relaxing journey through history. It costs nothing, unlike the bread taxes back in ancient Egypt. Yes, they really taxed bread. Tough times. Now, close your eyes if you like. Take a deep breath and let's travel back about 3,000 years along the banks of the Nile.
The Nile was more than a river. To the ancient Egyptians, it was a god. Happy, the bringer of life. Each morning, before the sun climbed over the horizon, the world stirred in silence. The blue lotus opened slowly on the water. And within mud brick homes, families began their sacred routines. In one such house, near the town of Père Bastet, a woman named Neni stretches in the morning light. Her cat, of course, is already awake, because cats, even divine ones, have no respect for sleep. She slips a hand-woven shawl over her shoulders and makes her way to the hearth. The fire has kept a faint ember through the night. With dried straw and patience, she revives it, just as her mother taught her. She kneels, grinds wheat with a stone mill, her arms moving in a rhythm older than the pyramids. Bread was the heart of every Egyptian meal. Flat, round, coarse, sometimes full of sand if you weren't careful at the grindstone. They called it ta, and it came in countless shapes, cones, twists, loaves shaped like birds. Neni hums as she prepares the dough, mixing flour with water and a pinch of sour mash. Yesterday's ferment becomes today's rise. She shapes each loaf with care, lays them on hot stones, and watches them swell and darken. Before anyone eats, she places a small piece aside, an offering. To whom? Ra, for the sunlight that grew the grain. Isis, for protecting the home. Osiris, god of life and rebirth, and perhaps the stomach too. The family gathers. Neni's husband, Kai, returns from the river with fresh water. Their children sleepily rub their eyes, drawn by the smell of warm bread. Breakfast is simple: bread, dates, a few onions, beer, thick, nutritious, more like a drinkable porridge. They called it heket. And yes, even the kids had some. The table? There is none. Meals are shared seated on mats. No forks, no knives, just fingers and laughter. Chew slowly, Kai says, unless you enjoy grinding sand between your teeth. Even the cat gets a bit of fish. Of course she does. She's considered sacred, and she knows it. Behind the house is a small garden: beans, leeks, cucumbers, and coriander. Fig trees shade a clay bench. Papyrus sways near a shallow pool. Neni plucks fresh herbs, checks on the bees near the flowering acacia, and gathers a handful of lentils to soak for supper. Egyptians believed that food held spiritual energy, that each seed carried the magic of the earth, and each meal connected them to the divine rhythm of life. Even the humble onion was sacred, its layers a symbol of eternity, which is a poetic way to justify bad breath. By midday, the heat presses down. Kay heads to the village market, a shaded maze of stalls and sounds. Vendors shout the price of fresh fish, goose eggs, and honey. Scribes sit nearby, recording trades on sheets of papyrus. In the corner,
A storyteller recites a tale of Horus and Set as children gather wide-eyed and grinning. Kay buys lentils, dried dates, and a precious handful of salt, a luxury often traded from faraway lands. As he leaves, a neighbor jokes, "Did you remember the garlic this time, or are we cursing our dinner again?" Back home, Nenny grinds spices in a stone bowl: cumin, coriander, a dash of fenugreek. The stew simmers: lentils, leeks, garlic, and fish from the river. Cooking was not just a task, it was a ritual performed with patience and intention. Even the placement of the pots mattered. Some were believed to heat better when aligned with the stars. Superstition? Maybe, but it made for a good stew. The scent drifts outside, drawing curious neighbors, and naturally more cats. As the sun begins to set, the family gathers once more. The food is shared. Hands dip into bowls. No one eats alone, not if it can be helped. Before the final bite, there is silence, a brief prayer, a nod to the gods. They eat slowly. They talk of dreams, of what the stars might bring. The children ask questions. Why do we offer food to gods who don't eat? Kay smiles. Because gratitude feeds more than hunger. The sky turns deep indigo. The Nile reflects the moonlight. Frogs begin their soft songs. The world slows down. In the quiet, Nenny tidies the hearth. The embers dim. Tomorrow they will be reborn. She places one last piece of bread beside the small statue of Bess, protector of sleep and laughter. And as the house grows still, a single thought drifts through the air. Every meal is a story, a moment of thanks, a quiet miracle. Thank you for spending this time with us, walking along the Nile, listening to stories whispered by the past. If this brought you peace, a smile, or a little wonder, leave a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more quiet journeys through time. Until next time, may your meals be sacred and your cats well fed. Before we open the temple doors, before we step into the world of whispers and incense, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss your next peaceful journey into the ancient world. Your click feeds the algorithm, and let's be honest, even the gods needed offerings. Now, take a breath, let your shoulders fall, and walk with me to a sacred island, to a temple by the Nile, to the world of the priestess of Isis. The sun rises over Philae, where the sacred temple of Isis watches the river. Inside its stone walls, a woman opens her eyes before dawn. Her name is Satsobek, one of the few chosen to serve the Great Mother. She rises without speaking. Today, like every day, begins in silence. She washes with cool water from a copper basin, not just for cleanliness, but for purification. The body must be clean before speaking sacred words. Her hair is braided neatly. A white linen robe is tied at the waist. Jewelry? Only the sacred amulets. Ankh for life, a scarab for protection, and a tiny gold sistrum for joy. Before the world stirs, Satsobek walks the quiet halls of the temple. The incense burners are empty, the sacred statues covered. The great doors of Isis must be opened, but only after the proper words are spoken. She kneels before the goddess's shrine. She speaks prayers learned by heart, words passed from priestess to priestess for generations. O Isis, great enchantress, mistress of magic and life, open your arms to the morning. Awaken the sacred flame. A young acolyte brings fresh myrrh and lotus oil. They light the first incense of the day, and the scent curls into the cold air like a spirit. The temple is filled with symbols, lotuses, serpents, stars. Each one carries meaning. The walls speak in stone, tales of birth, death, and rebirth. The myth of Isis and Osiris, told in quiet reverence by flickering lamplight. Sometimes tourists ask, did the priestesses believe all this? Satsobek would smile. Belief isn't just in the gods, it's in the ritual, in the quiet, in doing the same thing day after day with devotion. Even if you're not sure it's real, you still sweep the floor of the god's house, just in case they're watching. As the sun rises higher, the temple fills with life. Petitioners arrive, women seeking blessings for fertility, fishermen offering their catch in thanks, a nobleman bringing papyrus scrolls to be blessed. Satsobek prepares for the midday offering. She grinds sacred herbs, blue lotus, frankincense, and cinnamon. She sings a hymn to the goddess, soft, repetitive, like a lullaby. The sound echoes through the columns. Then she leads the incense through the hall, past the statue of Isis, past the carvings of Horus and Osiris, past generations of silent stone faces. And outside, the people bow their heads. Even the children fall silent. Just for a moment, behind the scenes, the temple is busy. There's cooking to be done, scrolls to copy, cats to feed. Yes, many cats. and one very spoiled one named Bastet, who refuses to drink anything but Nile water cooled in a ceramic bowl. Satsobek shares a meal with the other priestesses: bread, lentils, goat cheese, figs, and sweet beer. They talk softly about dreams, about omens, about how one of them accidentally used olive oil instead of lotus in the morning incense. Satsobek chuckles. "Don't worry," she says. "I'm sure the goddess appreciates variety." The afternoon is for teaching. A group of young acolytes sit in the courtyard. Satsobek draws lines in the dust with a reed. She tells the story of Isis, how she searched the world for the pieces of Osiris, how she brought him back to life, how she gave birth to Horus under the stars. "It's not just a myth," she says. "It's a lesson that love endures, that magic is real, and that women, especially women, hold great power." The youngest girl looks up and whispers, "Can I be a priestess too?" Satsobek smiles. "You already are. You just don't know it yet." As the sun begins to fall, the last rituals of the day begin. The temple is swept. Offerings are gathered. The sacred statue is once again veiled. Satsobek lights the final lamp, one for the goddess, one for the moon, one for the souls of those who walk the halls unseen. She writes in her journal, not in hieroglyphs, but in her own secret script, a habit picked up from an older priestess long ago. She writes about a dream of a white ibis, about a woman who wept before the altar, and about the way the sunlight hit the carved wing of Isis at dawn, as if it moved. Night falls slowly over the island. The river grows dark. The stars awaken. Satsobek stands at the balcony of her quarters, overlooking the Nile. She breathes deeply. The scent of incense still lingers in her robe. She is tired, but calm. Tomorrow the rituals begin again. But for now, there is only silence, only moonlight, only peace, and maybe, if you listen closely, a quiet laugh from Bastet, knocking over yet another offering bowl. Thank you for joining this quiet walk through the life of a priestess of Isis. If you felt the calm in your chest, if the scent of ancient incense reached your imagination, please like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a bit of stillness. Because sometimes peace is found in the rituals of the past and in the echo of a goddess's name carried on the wind of the Nile. Welcome, dear traveler of time. Before we walk among the sacred creatures of ancient Egypt, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next peaceful journey through history. Yes, even gods appreciated the offerings, but today the offerings are simple. Your presence, your curiosity, and the gentle hum of history. Now breathe, relax your shoulders. Let's step into a world where animals were divine, loved, protected, and sometimes spoiled. The Nile's edge teems with life: fish, birds, reptiles, mammals. For ancient Egyptians, these creatures weren't just animals. They were manifestations of divine power. A heron's flight echoed Ra's journey across the sky. A lion's roar echoed Sekhmet's fiery wrath. A falcon's dive proclaimed Horus's dominion over the land. Homes became sacred menageries. Cats lounged on linen cushions, ibises preened in courtyards, and cobras curled in secret shrine corners. But it wasn't all grandeur. There was humor, too. Imagine a priestess chasing a mischievous ibis around the temple because the bird decided that this papyrus scroll was a better perch than its golden stand. Let's begin with the most beloved, the cat, Bastet's earthly avatar. Egyptians worshipped cats with statues, amulets, and celebrations. At home, cats had ivy wreaths, and rumor has it they sometimes knocked over a jar or two just to see if you'd wake up. Killing a cat accidentally or on purpose was punishable by death, which is one reason some prankster neighbors would borrow a cat just to watch the city panic. They even mummified cats by the thousands. Some were votive offerings. Pet lovers praying for health or luck sent their cats' remains to the temple. Other times, cats were kept alive, pampered until old age, and then gently laid to rest with food and fanfare. One kitten, hieroglyphs tell us, once ordered its servant to bring extra fish, because I deserve it, obviously. We don't know if it's true, but the scroll was too elegant to dispute. A falcon overhead, swift, regal, was Horus's symbol. Temple roofs had falcon statues, eyes carved on walls to watch over the city. Falcon priests raised chicks by hand in temple courtyards. The babies would hatch in baskets lined with papyrus and reeds. One account tells us an apprentice priest accidentally taught his falcon to call his name. So in the dead of night, the falcon would squawk, "Tut, tut, tut," and the entire temple woke in alarm, only to realize a bird was playing tricks. Falcon feeders became skilled fish-to-hand jugglers, balancing fish on staff ends to satisfy their fidgety charges. Sacred birds were not pets, they were living gods. No leash, no cage, but plenty of fish. The Nile hides a secret. Sobek, god of the crocodile. Small temples along the riverbanks housed tame crocs, padded with straw, revered, feared. Legend tells of one crocodile named Sobekotep who would bait itself on fishermen's huts and then bury them in mud and worship before drifting away. Everyone said he was soberingly devout. People offered bits of fish and fowl, even treasure-dipped bread. To disrespect him was to invite misfortune, or worse. But life wasn't all fear. On festival days, priests would dress as Sobek, parading through streets, snapping oversized papier-mâché jaws at delighted crowds. Domestic birds, ducks, geese were cherished for food, feathers, and companionship. One tale speaks of Nefertari texting. Oops, sorry, texting isn't a thing. Instead, she is said to have had a choir of geese that honked in perfect harmony. Tourists, we mean traders, came from afar to pay ear-burningly high prices just to hear them squawk. Geese feathers became quills for scribes. If your pen bled with goose feather ink, well, you must have been either a serious poet or running late. Ducks were less revered, more dinner, but ducks also starred in comedic temple plays, priests in duck costumes, performing bridge scenes with falcon priest guest stars. Yes, rodents were present too, though seldom honored. Some pharaohs built granaries with rodent guards, cats mostly, but stories abound of great cat burglaries. When kings awoke to find their gold stash chewed. Temple archives mention a scribe who wrote note to self by mousetrap. And yet, once in a century, a mouse scurried into a shrine and escaped unharmed. Some claimed it was a divine trickster sent by Thoth to remind them even small beings deserve attention. Massive, regal, rare elephants strode into Egypt from Nubia and Punt. They were gifts for pharaohs, ambassadors of might and diplomacy. One procession story, an elephant ambassador, needed 500 men to lead it across the desert. When it sneezed, the ground shook, and everyone prayed it wasn't in a temple. They wore decorative howdahs and headdresses and sipped from golden basins as servants inched forward, offering royal dates on golden trays. Did Egyptians ride them? Not usually, but they certainly admired. Hieroglyphs show elephants trampling crocodiles, symbolizing triumph over chaos, which is one way to clear your morning meditation. Today I will trample chaos. Frogs, small, wet, but teeming with symbolism. In spring, millions hatched near the Nile. A life explosion celebrated by Hecate, the frog goddess of fertility. Temple art shows children holding frogs, ancient equivalent of "look what I caught." Mothers would collect tadpoles, feed them in little jars, watch them turn into frogs, and think, wow, nature's own magic trick. Frog moans filled greening marshes. As farmers danced, grateful for fertility, frog charm amulets were worn to invite abundance or to keep serenading frogs quiet at night, scuttling along walls, lizards, keepers of vermin, small wonders of survival, scarab beetles, holy, represented Khepri, god of dawn. Scarabs rolled dung, symbolizing the sun rolling over the sky. Tiny scarab bracelets adorned wrists, tiny good luck charms. One tale tells of a love letter scarab sent from a scribe to his beloved. Each day I see your face is like seeing the sun. Imagine brisk winds sweeping them off her sleeve, tiny beetles falling like confetti. Lizards were less loved, but their presence meant a pest-free home. So, quietly appreciated. Honey, liquid gold, bees, divine engineers. Beekeeping was advanced. Clay hives stacked neatly in apiaries. Smoke kept the bees calm. Priests harvested honey for offerings, medicine, even for embalming. Queen bee mosaics appear in grave goods, symbolizing order and productivity. An anecdote tells of a hive that wandered off, carried by flood, later found, wandering in a farmer's field, who thought it holy and refused to eat the honey. Too sacred, he said. And so, tour guide, priest, and beekeeper had a heated discussion over tea. All these animals, cats, ibises, falcons, bulls, dogs, jackals, were woven into daily life. They inspired medicine, art, ritual, laws, humor. Care for a sick ibis? Take it to the temple vet. A real job. Fear a prowling jackal? Nicknames abounded. Rolf the Jackal for anyone too sneaky. Even garden pests took on mythic weight. One Egyptian joke goes, if your cucumber dies, blame Set. As the sun sets on the Nile and the creatures rest, we see a world that was alive, teeming with spirit, sacredness, laughter. The ancient Egyptians didn't just share space with animals, they shared their souls. They worshipped them, fed them, wrote poems to them, and yes, sometimes tripped over them in pitch darkness. Thank you for wandering with me among the sacred beasts of ancient Egypt. If this brought a sense of wonder, a smile, a moment of calm, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need a peaceful pause. Next time you see a cat stretch in the sun, remember, you're not just admiring a pet, you're touching an echo of divinity draped in fur. Until our next journey, may your days be blessed by small miracles and your night flanked by gentle guardians.